A young magician stands against a colossal, shadowy entity, his cloak whipping in the turbulent air. Gathering a sphere of raw energy in his palm, he vows that after all the destruction caused, his foe will not be leaving unscathed. For his valor, the young man, Vim Abel, was chosen as a court magician, praised for his merits in resolving the Empire's great crisis. He was a true hero. His memories were filled with the faces of those he protected. A fierce warrior woman charging into battle, and a serene princess with her hands clasped in prayer. These events unfolded within the vast Cyrus Empire, a kingdom of stone and tile sprawling at the foot of a mountain range. But that heroic past gives way to a grim present. Vim Abel stands in a grand hall, flanked by guards, as an imperial official reads a decree accusing him of defying the emperor. His sentence is delivered without hesitation. He is to be imprisoned, his qualifications as a court magician permanently revoked, and he will be stripped of all his power. Vim's hands are bound as he stares forward in stunned silence. From his throne, a new emperor observes, noting that it was the previous ruler who appointed Vim. He reflects that this commoner now holds enough power to shake the entire country. The reality of his situation crashes down upon Vim. The betrayal is incomprehensible, and his mind can only stammer in denial. In the aftermath of his sentencing, a covered prison wagon travels down a dirt road, leaving the city behind for the dense woods. He is shoved toward the wagon, a guard informing him that his magic has been sealed and resistance is futile. As he stumbles, Vim protests, shouting that the entire situation is ridiculous, but his pleas are ignored. He stood in the darkness, questioning if this was truly the end. After working so hard, after dedicating his life to changing this unreasonable world, was it all to be for nothing? His mind drifted back more than 10 years, to his childhood with his friend, Anna. He remembered always being injured, and she would promise to come and heal him. He'd told her she was amazing, and with a bright smile, she declared herself a magician of justice. But that was before the year she turned 9. The memory soured as he recalled the truth. Anna was killed by a human trafficking organization. He remembered her being struck down and his own helpless screams. It was in that moment of despair that he swore an oath to change the world, to turn it into a place without sadness where no one gets hurt. He would become the magician of justice she couldn't be. Fueled by this vow, his resolve hardened in the present. He would not die tied up in a place like this. He pushed against the door, but it was sealed shut. His gaze fell to the heavy handcuffs binding his wrists. He knew these restraints sealed his magic. The situation was dire, but he saw a single, risky option available to him. He decided to let the mana within his body run wild. A torrent of raw magical energy erupted from him, forming a swirling vortex of power. The intent was simple, to forcibly break free. The chain connecting the cuffs strained against the overwhelming force. He focused his will, channeling every ounce of his internal power into the restraints. With a final surge, the magic-sealing cuffs shattered into fragments. He looked at his freed hands, a faint smile touching his lips. The gamble had paid off. Now free from his bonds, he faced the next obstacle, a massive sealed door. The question was no longer if he could fight, but how he would escape this place. He unleashes a fireball spell at the massive door, but it collides with an invisible hexagonal barrier, dissipating without effect. He surmises it must be some form of ancient or lost magic. Though he feels it might be impossible to break, a mysterious voice suddenly echoes in his mind, asking a single question. Do you desire power? The question seems to emanate from the long, dark corridor that stands as his only other path. He stares into the depths, bewildered by the sudden intrusion. He identifies the echoing sound as a voice from the deepest part of the passage, pondering the meaning behind its offer of power. He briefly wonders if such power could be his ticket to escape. Though he dismisses the thought as wishful thinking, he quickly concludes that with no other options available, he must proceed. Stepping into the corridor, he immediately senses the oppressive atmosphere. The concentration of mana is so thick it would be enough to cause an ordinary person to faint. His mind races with the implications. He knows that mana is the energy produced by all things in nature, and when it gathers in such large quantities, a core forms and a magic beast is born. Such places become dungeons, and the presence of strong monsters suggests this could be an S-rank dungeon, a place that would normally be impossible to clear without a proper, high-rank party. Despite the immense danger, he questions if he can manage alone, but resolves to push forward into the darkness regardless. Almost immediately, several wolf-like magic beasts emerge from the shadows. He summons a small orb of light as he swiftly dodges the lunge of the closest creature. Having dealt with the beasts, his attention is drawn to a stone staircase just ahead, a potential path leading out of the depths. He arrived in a vast, tiled chamber, its stark emptiness suggesting he had reached the deepest part of the dungeon. He scanned the room, a single question forming in his mind. Was there a dungeon boss? In that instant, a violent tremor shook the chamber, and his eyes widened in alarm. His suspicion was confirmed as the stone floor shattered and a colossal, dark form began to emerge. There was indeed a boss. The creature, a massive black dragon, rose to its full height and unleashed a deafening roar that filled the entire hall. A confident smirk touched his lips. He recalled hearing it would be impossible to take down such a beast without multiple high-rank adventurers. Yet here it was, the boss of this dungeon. With a determined cry, he charged forward to meet the threat. The dragon lunged in response, its powerful jaws snapping at it. The beast's attack was halted by a shimmering sigil. He had cast a physical barrier and, seeing the dragon's charge stopped, challenged it to try again. The dragon slammed its head into the barrier with immense force. The magical construct cracked under the strain, and he grunted with the effort of maintaining it. The impact sent waves of energy rippling through the air as the black dragon roared, pressing its relentless assault against the fragile defense. He dodged the beast's snapping jaws, calling out to draw its attention. The black dragon let out a furious roar, its shadowy form crackling with power. His maneuver bought him the time he needed. With a confident expression, he announced the completion of his spell, an ancient barrier, manifesting as two intricate magical seals before him. With his defense established, he declared it was his turn to attack. Invoking the spirit of light, he unleashed a devastating holy lance. The beam of pure energy struck the dragon head-on, resulting in a cataclysmic explosion that settled the fight in an instant. As the blinding light faded, the dragon's form disintegrated into dust, leaving behind only a fractured stone floor. He was surprised, realizing the creature had been defeated far more easily than he had anticipated. He caught his breath, a wave of relief washing over him. It had been a close call. He recalled his strategy, using a near-instantaneous physical barrier to block the initial attack, just long enough to cast the more powerful ancient barrier. He stood, surveying the now silent chamber. Had he been even a fraction of a second later, he knew the outcome would have been much worse. He spoke into the emptiness, asking if the path was now clear. In the silence that followed, a disembodied voice suddenly echoed around him, posing a question. Do you desire power? Startled, Vim looked around, trying to find the source of the voice. He stood alone in the vast, empty hall, the voice's question hanging in the air as he considered his response. His momentary surprise gave way to unwavering resolve. He answered into the void, declaring that acquiring this power was the entire reason he had come this far. He demanded that the voice give it to him without delay. The voice seemed pleased by his conviction. Well said, it resonated through the chamber. To you I will bestow immortality. Its offer manifested as a glowing sigil before Vim Abel, confirming the acquisition of the immortality skill. He stared in disbelief, realizing this was not the kind of power he desired. He yelled into the empty hall, demanding to be let out. The nature of the skill became clear. Immortality was a special ability that could not be removed. It guaranteed an eternal existence by halting the aging process and instantly healing even fatal injuries. With the voice and the dragon's corpse gone, he was left utterly alone in the vast, tiled chamber, the great doors now sealed. His expression hardened as he clutched his staff. Accursed power was now in his hands, and the one-year mark of his confinement was fast approaching. He desperately searched for an exit, but found none. Though he wouldn't die of hunger, the sensation remained, forcing him to eat the magical beasts that populated the dungeon. They were so weak he barely broke a sweat defeating them, but their taste was horrid. Sleep offered no escape either, as he found himself unable to rest. Lying on the cold floor, he resolved that he would not spend an eternity in this place. But no matter how long he searched the crumbling ruins, no exit ever appeared. After all this time trapped in the endless corridors, a grim thought began to take shape. He turned his attention back to the large, sealed doors he had first encountered. He wondered if he was truly left with no other option but this place. He observed that no guard had been assigned to the entrance. The handcuffs he once wore lay shattered on the ground, yet the powerful barriers sealing the doors remained fully intact. He unleashed his frustration upon the sealed door, a blast of force slamming into an unseen barrier. He cried out, questioning what he had done to deserve this fate. The impact sent tremors across the invisible wall. To his surprise, a fissure appeared on its surface, and a flicker of hope ignited as he recognized the damage. He leaned closer, his mind racing. A year had passed with magical beasts wandering these halls. He concluded that their presence must have gradually eroded the barrier's strength, leaving this one spot vulnerable. A path to freedom was finally within his grasp. With renewed determination, he stepped back, a confident smile on his face. He knew he could break through. Gathering his energy, he invoked the spirit of fire, commanding it to burn away the obstacle before him. A final, concussive blast shattered the weakened barrier into countless fragments. The way was clear. A triumphant grin spread across his face as he realized he was finally free from his prison. The heavy doors, no longer held by magic, swung open, flooding the dark dungeon with brilliant, unfamiliar light. He stepped through the threshold, shielding his eyes from the overwhelming brightness of the sun. After a year in darkness, the light was almost painful, shaking off the sentimentality of the moment. He knew he had to move quickly before his escape was discovered. Once clear of the immediate area, he paused to consider his next steps. The future was an open path, and he wondered aloud what he should do. His first thought turning to the kingdom of Leoria. His reasoning was simple. He had heard that Leoria was a kingdom built on meritocracy, a system where ability was valued above all. There was certainly no reason for him to return to the Cyrus Empire, the very nation that had cast him into that dungeon. A memory surfaced, the smiling face of a young girl named Anna. It was a promise to her that solidified his resolve. He would become a magician of justice. Having finally escaped his confinement, Vim Abel prepares for his journey. He closes his eyes, focusing his will, and resolves to cast flight magic. All right, he murmurs, clenching a fist as he gathers his power. He glances back one last time at the distant structure of his former prison, a monument to the Cyrus Empire. With a bitter tone, he offers his thanks for everything before turning his gaze forward, his expression hardening with resolve. The spell takes hold, propelling him through the air at incredible speed. Twin magical circles flare to life at his wrists, leaving trails of energy as he soars across the sky. As he flies over a dense forest, a commotion on the ground below catches his eye, his expression shifting to one of concern. His sharp gaze reveals a carriage stopped on a dirt road, arrows embedded in the ground around it. A lone guard stands defensively, confirming his suspicion that there is trouble. Inside the carriage, a young woman with blonde hair, clearly of noble birth, trembles in fear. Her eyes are wide with terror as she wonders if this is where she will die. Her fears intensify as the carriage lurches violently, a wheel shattering under the assault. She lets out a piercing scream while an older attendant beside her, fraught with worry, pleads for the princess to be careful. Witnessing the scene from above, Vim Abel doesn't hesitate. He angles his flight into a steep dive, hurtling towards the chaos and shouting down, "I'll help you." As the royal carriage comes under attack, a guard orders the deployment of a severance barrier. A shimmering, hexagonal shield materializes around the vehicle, protecting it and its occupants, including a crouched Vim Abel. Arrows thud harmlessly against the magical shield. A guard wonders aloud where the attackers came from, but Vim recognizes the nature of the assault, identifying it as enemy locating magic. He resolves to end the battle in a single move. Using his own magic, he identifies 6 bandits in the vicinity and conjures 2 glowing, intricate magic circles in his hands. He places his hand on the barrier surface, intending to place a magic circle directly above each enemy's head. A moment later, his targets are fully locked on. In the surrounding forest, the bandits are caught by surprise as the magic circles appear above them. One archer invokes the spirit of light, but it's too late. A blinding flash of energy erupts, stunning them all into unconsciousness. The spell's effects are clear. The bandits are stunned, with a recovery time of 24 hours. Vim assures the guard that it's over, noticing the man has an arrow lodged in his shoulder. He rushes over, promising to heal the wound immediately. He places his hand over the injury, closes his eyes in concentration, and invokes a healing spell. The arrow dissolves into motes of light as the wound seals itself shut. The guard stares in disbelief, shocked that Vim can use recovery magic, and demands to know who he truly is. Before he can answer, the carriage door opens. A young woman with long, light hair steps out, apologizing for the guard's impoliteness and suggesting gratitude should come first. Internally, Vim panics, realizing he is essentially a fugitive and has no idea what to do. The young woman formally introduces herself as Ellen Leoria, the first princess of the kingdom of Leoria, and thanks him for his help. Her butler, Jeffrey, echoes the sentiment. Vim is struck dumb, realizing with a shock that the very princess he was traveling to meet was inside the carriage all along. He humbly introduces himself as Vim Abel, a mere magician passing by, attempting to refuse any reward. The princess, however, presses him for his name, insisting that her country must be allowed to offer him something for his service. Taking his hand, she insists that as he saved her life, it would be a disgrace to her country not to express their gratitude. With a determined gaze, she formally invites him to accompany them to her homeland of Leoria. Slightly flustered by her earnestness, he admits that he was already on his way to Leoria, since the princess herself suggested it. He sees no reason to refuse and agrees to go with them. Her face lights up with joy at his acceptance. Tugging him along, she declares they should depart immediately, excitedly adding that she wants to introduce him to her father. The mention of her father catches Vim completely off guard. The sudden realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. Her father is the king. Their journey takes them toward a grand castle town, the seat of power for the kingdom of Leoria, nestled atop a forested hill. From the window of their carriage, Princess Ellen points out the sights, announcing their arrival in the royal capital. Vim remarks on what a nice country it is, a comment that brings a smile to the princess's face. Elsewhere in the carriage, 2 of her attendants agree to continue their own conversation once they have arrived at the royal palace. Inside the palace, Vim is struck with awe. He murmurs that the grand, vaulted hallway is several times larger than anything in the empire. Noticing his stunned expression, Ellen turns to him and asks what is the matter. He confesses that the prospect of meeting the king is making him a little nervous. Just then, Ellen stops abruptly. She exclaims that she just remembered something important she forgot to ask him. She looked at him with earnest curiosity, asking for what reason he was heading to Leoria in the first place. Vim, caught off guard, could only stammer in response. He explained that ever since the emperor changed in Cyrus, he had only heard troubling rumors, finding it hard to believe what had happened. He asked if she believed his story, and she affirmed without hesitation that she did. Her expression then brightened into a warm smile as she extended her hand. She reassured him that this was Leoria, a place where no one would subject him to such an absurd ordeal, and formally welcomed Vim Abel. With the attendant Jeffrey standing by, she gestured expansively, proudly declaring the kingdom of Leoria to be a country built on a complete meritocracy. Hearing this, a faint, thoughtful smile touched Vim's lips. He then took her offered hand, shaking it firmly. The princess thanked him, relieved that they were back. The moment was interrupted by a new voice. A man with a regal bearing, whom Ellen addressed as father, stepped forward. The king of Leoria formally introduced himself to Vim Abel and expressed his profound gratitude for saving his daughter. As a token of this gratitude, he offered to prepare a reward, asking what Vim desired, be it a noble title, a house, money, or qualifications. Overwhelmed by the sudden offer, Vim stood frozen, wondering what he should do now. Inside an ornate room in the royal palace, Vim Abel sits across from Princess Ellen and her father, the king of Leoria. The king bows his head slightly, once again expressing his profound gratitude for the rescue of his daughter. Vim, flustered, insists it was nothing and merely the right thing to do. Princess Ellen smiles warmly, telling the young man there is no need for such humility. Realizing his oversight, the king formally introduces himself with a confident smile. He is Elderet Leoria, the ruler of the country. His daughter turns to him, her hands clasped in excitement, and exclaims that Mr. Vim is truly amazing. Vim, meanwhile, sweats nervously at the praise. She then turns directly to Vim, pleading with him not to belittle himself. He can only reply that he really isn't that amazing. Ellen continues her effusive praise, recounting how he came gallantly from the sky and used a variety of spells, just like the legendary magician of justice, Sambel. The name stops Vim cold. He stares in shock, asking how she could possibly know of his master. The king, laughing heartily, remarks that Vim's feats do indeed sound like the return of the heretic sage. At this revelation, both the king and his daughter share a look of mutual surprise. The kingdom of Leoria once faced a multitude of problems. It was then that a legendary magician, the heretic sage Sambel, suddenly appeared. He used his powers to protect the people, honored social customs, and solve the kingdom's issues, earning him the title Magician of Justice from citizenry. Back in the present, the king muses that he had only heard rumors of the savior having a disciple. He concludes that Vim's saving Ellen must have been fated to happen. Ellen, equally stunned, expresses her disbelief that Mr. Vim is the disciple of such a figure. He forced a nervous smile, sweating under the royal scrutiny. The revelation about his master, whom he had heard passed away, was already a shock. All he wanted was to avoid standing out, but he had done just the opposite. Unaware of the young man's inner conflict, King Elderet expressed his profound gratitude, stating he couldn't thank Vim and his master enough. With a benevolent smile, he offered to grant whatever Vim desired as a reward. He waved his hands dismissively, insisting that he was fine and hadn't acted for the sake of a reward. The king watched with an amused expression, remarking on the boy's modesty and admitting he'd already taken a liking to him. His amusement then shifted to a more serious tone. The king stated that as a member of the royal family, he simply could not let such a service go unrewarded. After a moment of quiet contemplation, the king pressed again, asking him to name anything he wanted. An idea suddenly struck him. Though he worried it might be rude, he decided to ask. He announced that, to make use of the favor, he would like to obtain an adventurer's license. His expression hardened with resolve as he provided his reasoning. He was unable to use his identification from his homeland of Cyrus. The king was surprised by the modest request. He asked if that was all, noting that while a state-issued license brings societal trust, it was hardly comparable to peerage. Vim quickly clarified that becoming a noble was not what he wanted. A broad, approving smile spread across the king's face. He declared that he liked Vim more by the minute for choosing such a challenging path. He agreed to handle it at once, though it would take until morning, and invited Vim to stay the night at the castle. With the audience concluded, a heavy door swung shut, closing off the throne room. Inside the royal quarters, a maid gives a slight bow and announces her departure, leaving Vim Abel alone. He stands in the center of the opulent room, his eyes wide with astonishment. The sheer luxury of his accommodations, the large canopied bed, the fine furniture, leaves him momentarily speechless, and he can only think how incredibly fancy it all is. His thoughts drift to his master as he reflects on the whirlwind of recent events. The exhaustion of the day suddenly hits him, and he collapses onto the bed, remarking to himself how soft and fluffy it is as he sinks into the mattress. As he rests, his mind wanders back in time to a rainy day in a graveyard. A much younger version of himself stands before a cross, his expression grim. A hooded figure approaches, asking the young man why he bears such a look in his eyes. With his face cast in shadow, the boy confesses it is because he was weak and failed to protect an important friend. Clenching his small fist, he declares with burning intensity his desire to become strong enough to change this rotten world. The hooded man, an elder with a long white beard, tells the boy that merely begging with strength won't accomplish anything, a truth he believes the boy already understands. Seeing his helplessness, the elder then extends an offer. If it is strength he truly desires, he should become his disciple. The young Vim looks up, his eyes wide with surprise and a glimmer of hope. A knock sounds at a door. Outside, the morning light illuminates a sprawling castle town, with the royal palace perched high on a hill. The door opens to reveal Jeffrey, a royal attendant, who wishes a good morning to his still sleepy Vim Abel. Jeffrey apologizes for the early intrusion, but announces that Vim's adventurer certification has been prepared. As they walk, Jeffrey explains that the issuance of adventurer certifications is usually handled by the guilds. However, this time His Majesty the King will be awarding it in person. Vim, now fully dressed, smiles and accepts it as a great honor, acknowledging the exceptional treatment as Jeffrey offers to guide him to the throne room. He questions why they're going to such lengths, feeling that the reception from the previous day should have been sufficient. Jeffrey simply explains that it is because the situation is unprecedented. They proceed down a grand, ornate hallway, passing maids who bow respectfully as they go by. Jeffrey then asks Vim about his etiquette when it comes to an audience with royalty. Vim touches his chin confidently, reassuring the attendant that he will be fine, as he has been in the Empire before. Reaching a set of massive double doors, Jeffrey understands and gestures for him to proceed. He announces that Vim may now enter. The doors swing open to reveal a vast and opulent throne room. A long carpet stretches towards a distant throne, flanked on both sides by rows of formally dressed courtiers, all turning their attention to the newcomer. At the far end of the hall, King Eldoret Leoria sits upon his throne, a royal guard standing vigil beside him. From the crowd, Princess Ellen watches as her father's voice rings out, summoning Vim able to come forth. He kneels before the king, looking up at the assembled court and the grandeur of the throne. A sense of awe washes over him. It is a truly amazing sight. Kneeling before the throne, he listens as King Eldoret Leoria begins the ceremony, his voice resonating through the hall. The king announces that he will now personally conduct the awarding of Vim's adventurer certification. The king continues, citing the reason for this great honor: Vim's distinguished act of rescuing Princess Ellen from bandits. He then commands the young man to raise his head. As Vim looks up, the king makes a declaration that stuns the court. He is hereby designating him an S-rank adventurer. A wave of murmurs spreads through the assembled nobles. One exclaims that S-rank is the highest possible rank. Another courtier recalls that adventurers normally start at E-rank and must build their achievements. A third remarks on the rarity of the rank, noting there are no more than 5 such people in each country, while another simply praises Vim as an amazing gentleman. The king begins to applaud slowly, the sharp claps startling Vim, who is still processing the monumental announcement. He looks up, flustered, and tries to interrupt, calling out to His Majesty Eldoret to wait. The king, however, merely offers a knowing, confident smile. Continuing without acknowledging the interruption, the king announces that as proof of this top rank, he will also assign Vim a second name. He bestows the title upon him, declaring that his second name will be the Magician of the Abyss. With a slight smile, the king looks upon his newly named adventurer and states that he looks forward to seeing his performance. Overwhelmed, but resolute, Vim's expression hardens with determination. He formally accepts the honor with a clear voice. Meanwhile, in the Cyrus Empire, a high-ranking official reports to his emperor. It seems, he informs the ruler that Vim Abel has escaped from the dungeon. The emperor reacts in shock. The official explains that a report from the chief court magician confirmed the barrier had been broken, meaning Vim is now free. He reminds the emperor that Vim was imprisoned to quell the fear of rebellion from young magicians who idolized him. When asked if Vim's location is known, the official replies that it is not. Covering his mouth, the emperor grimly concludes that it has come to this. The death penalty must be carried out. He orders the official to immediately investigate Vim's whereabouts and have him arrested, dead or alive. The official calmly accepts the command. As he walks down a long, arched corridor, a confident smirk spreads across his face. He thinks to himself that Vim has finally started moving. He pauses, arms crossed, and considers Vim's likely destination. Given the dungeon's location, he deduces Vim is probably heading for the Leoria Kingdom. He reflects on the past year, a time of repeated tax increases and total class discrimination, and how through it all, he maintained his faith in Vim's eventual return. His conviction is absolute. If it's Vim, he is certain he can fix this rotten world. A document confirms Vim Abel's new status as an S-rank adventurer, a title earned by saving the king's daughter. Elsewhere, inside a servant agency, 2 women with feline features discuss the news. One remarks that he sounds like a good person, wistfully adding it would be nice if he bought her. Her companion silently agrees. In a starkly different setting, a young woman with bruises on her shoulder is grabbed forcefully. She pleads with her captor to stop, her voice trembling as she speaks of the people who purchase slaves. Her face, marked and shadowed, fills the view. With a defiant glare, she declares that they are all terrible. Elsewhere, the grand, wrought iron gates of a massive estate swing open. Vim Abel stands before the opulent mansion revealed behind them, a carriage waiting nearby. He stares in disbelief, overwhelmed by the realization that this enormous building is his new residence. He pushes open the heavy front doors, his expression serious as he steps into his new home. Inside the foyer, 2 figures await him. An older man in a fine suit introduces himself as James, the butler. Beside him, a young woman in a maid's uniform explains that she is Arya, the head maid, and will be taking care of his everyday necessities. James presumes Vim has not eaten and offers to guide him to where a meal has been prepared. A bit taken aback by the formality, Vim replies that the pleasure is all his and follows them. As he is led toward the dining room, he reflects on his sudden change in fortune. He never could have dreamed that a day would come where he would live such an upper-class life. Before him is a lavish spread of food. Vim stares in awe, asking if it is truly all right for him to eat it all. James smiles warmly, assuring him that it is, as the meal was prepared specifically for him. He takes his first bite of the lavish meal. With his staff watching, he gives thanks for the food and announces that he won't be holding back. The taste is exquisite. He tells James that it's his first time eating such delicious food, his eyes sparkling with genuine delight. The butler expresses his gladness at hearing this. After the meal, while sipping a hot beverage, he remembers his original goal. He was thinking of finding a teammate. James overhears this and offers to bring him a map. The butler continues, asking if Vim plans to visit a guild or, perhaps, a slave merchant. The second suggestion catches the young adventurer by surprise. He quietly considers the word slaves. Seeing his contemplative state, James explains that if he wishes to go to a slave merchant, he has an acquaintance he could introduce. In this world, a slave is a person whose life and human rights have been sold for money due to various struggles. The trade is sanctioned by the government, which requires traders to guarantee the lives of their slaves. Vim acknowledges that it is an option, but states he won't act selfishly. Internally, however, his thoughts drift to the darker side of this business. Illegal organizations and black market traders where kidnappings occur. His mind conjures images of the brutality of such groups. Men being struck down and women being silenced and abducted. A new resolve forms on his face. He wonders if he should go, realizing he might find clues about that very organization. He makes his decision. With a calm smile, he tells James that he will stop by the merchant's place after greeting the guild. The butler agrees, stating he will contact his acquaintance. He offered his thanks before departing his residence under the evening sky. His destination was the Adventurer Guild, where he entered the guildmaster's office. He apologized for arriving without an appointment, but the man behind the desk graciously replied that he should have been the one to visit Vim. Seated across from the guildmaster, a man named Hamlet, he learned that there were unfortunately no S-rank missions currently available. Hamlet assured him, however, that he would be contacted if anything suitable appeared. Vim nodded in understanding and expressed his gratitude. As their meeting concluded, Hamlet presented him with his official guild identification. He examined the card, which identified him as Vim Abel, S-rank adventurer, magician of the abyss. Hamlet explained that it also served as identity confirmation in emergencies and warned him not to lose it. With no suitable adventurers at the guild, Vim concluded that visiting the slave trader was indeed the better choice. His thoughts were interrupted by the murmurs of other adventurers in the main hall. They recognized him as the newly appointed S-rank and whispered in awe, speculating that he must be a disciple of the Great Ark. The attention caused a blush to creep across his face. Overwhelmed by the sudden notoriety, he found the situation utterly embarrassing and made a hasty exit from the guild hall. He soon arrived at the location James had mentioned, a large building with a sign reading Servant Agency. Staring up at the establishment, he wondered if he could truly find a suitable teammate in such a place. A stout merchant leads Vim Abel toward a door marked Beast Room. He suggests that if Vim is seeking an adventure companion, a beastkin with excellent combat power would be an ideal choice. Vim remains silent, his expression thoughtful. As if to illustrate his point, glimpses of a beastkin woman are shown. A confident smile, a furry ear twitching attentively, and a long, slender tail swishing behind her. Inside the room, a line of several beastkin women stand on display, all poised and ready for inspection. He considers the lineup with a hand to his chin, thinking to himself that he isn't looking for sex appeal. He needs something different. Turning away from them, he asks the merchant if there are any others available. The merchant confirms there is one more, but he doesn't recommend her. Unconcerned, Vim insists on being shown, stating that it doesn't matter. As he leads Vim down a separate corridor, the merchant explains that they operate with government permission, claiming their work is almost like charity. He elaborates that they even accept cursed slaves, who often arrive with injuries and incurable diseases. The person he is about to introduce is in exactly that situation. The merchant stops before a solid door at the end of the hall and announces that this is the place. Vim's expression is tense with anticipation. Upon opening the door, Vim is met with the sight of a young, disheveled beastkin girl crouched on the floor of a dark room. She looks up, startled and wary, her face smudged with dirt. Vim stands in the doorway, momentarily speechless. Her face, though marred by dirt and pain, sparked a memory in Vim Abel. A ghost from his past, a smiling girl named Anna, flashed before his eyes, causing him to whisper her name in disbelief. The girl, however, showed no sign of recognition. Her expression was one of pure, defiant rage. Her teeth gritted as she glared at the men before her. Vim turned to the merchant, trying to explain his sudden interest. He assured the man he meant no harm, explaining that the girl simply resembled a childhood friend. The merchant, unconcerned with his motives, stated the facts plainly. She had been infected with a strong poison. He continued, his tone grim, adding that she did not have much longer to live. Despite this dire prognosis, the girl looked up in silence as Vim's resolve hardened. He looked at the merchant and stated his decision without hesitation. He would take her. His declaration hung in the air of the courtyard. The merchant questioned his choice, asking if he was certain he wanted her, even in her terminal state. Vim's answer was a firm yes, followed by confident pronouncement. He would neutralize the poison. With the terms agreed upon, the merchant presented the paperwork. He instructed Vim to sign on the designated line, and with a steady hand, Vim able finalized the purchase. As soon as the contract was signed, the merchant announced it was time for the contract ceremony. An assistant moved to grab the girl by the arm, preparing to lead her away. She reacted instantly, thrashing with all her might against the man's grip. He pleaded with her to calm down and stop resisting, but his words had no effect. Seeing her distress, Vim stepped forward, gently placing a hand on her head. The unexpected touch startled her into stillness. He then began an incantation, his hand glowing with a soft light as he called upon the spirit of light to grant the girl the blessing of purification. He looked at her with a reassuring expression, telling her not to worry, that she would start to feel better now. His purification magic manifested as a glowing sigil beneath the beastkin girl's feet, bathing her in a gentle light that obscured her features. She looked down in confusion, the light intensifying around her as she wondered what this strange sensation could be. The spell's success left the merchant in utter disbelief. He stammered, asking if it was a joke and if she had truly been healed, a question Vim calmly confirmed with a simple yes. He watched as the now healthy girl turned to him, her expression a mixture of awe and uncertainty as she managed a quiet word of thanks. He smiled warmly, telling her she was welcome. He then declared that they were companions now and would work together from this day forward. His words stunned her. The idea of being a companion was something she clearly hadn't expected, and her eyes widened in shock. Later, in a private room, he instructed her to let him know if she felt anything strange. She nervously agreed. He then reached toward her head, her ears twitching as he initiated an appraisal skill to assess her condition. His eyes scanned the results that appeared before him. He saw that a poison dragon's curse had been the cause of her suffering and murmured that it must have been painful. But as he read further, a far more shocking detail came to light. Her class was listed as Princess of a Fallen Country. He processed the information his skill had revealed, his gaze fixed on the beastkin girl before him. A princess of a fallen country. So that was her true class. The revelation settled between them, a silent, heavy truth. Outside the servant agency, Vim Abel informs the beastkin girl that the poison dragon's curse has been purified. He asks if she is already feeling better. She hesitantly confirms that she is, her eyes wide with disbelief. Relieved, Vim smiles, pleased that the treatment was a success. His quiet satisfaction is interrupted by the merchant and his assistant, who are ecstatic. The merchant exclaims that Vim truly cured her, just as one would expect from an S-rank adventurer, causing Vim to flinch slightly at the boisterous praise. He modestly dismisses the praise, stating that he only did what was natural. The girl remains silent, watching him with a complex expression. She clutches the simple necklace at her throat, her thoughts racing. She has to admit that he is a kind person. He even treats her normally, unlike anyone else. But this kindness breeds suspicion. Her mind spirals, questioning what might happen if he is lying. She fears being treated badly again, recalling the ingrained belief that all who buy slaves are terrible people as a memory of her bruised face flashes through her mind. Her thoughts drift back 10 years to the fall of the country of the beastkin. A younger version of herself huddles with other terrified children. A female slaver informs them that hiding is useless since the adults are gone, and they should surrender to live. As a young girl cries for her mother, the slaver coldly remarks that brats like her sell for a high price. From that day forward, her life was an unending series of hardships. She was deemed useless, thrown away, and finally inflicted with a deadly poison. The sudden appearance of someone so good and kind seems too convenient to be real. She believes such a thing doesn't come without a price. Back in the present, her internal turmoil continues as the merchant asks Vim if it's truly okay to trust him. The girl covers her mouth, realizing the pain is completely gone. She had no idea he was such an amazing magician. As she grapples with her disbelief, the merchant approaches Vim with a broad, eager smile. He asks if Vim would be willing to treat the other children as well. He looks up with a confident smile, repeating the question back to them. If I don't mind, his smile widens as he declares without hesitation that of course he doesn't mind. After all, he is the magician of justice. The beastkin girl watches him, her expression one of quiet surprise. He then turns his attention to the girl, a sudden realization striking him. He exclaims that he hasn't even told her his name yet. She flinches at his sudden movement, her ears twitching nervously. As he speaks, he extends his hand toward her in a gesture of greeting. The girl stares at his outstretched hand, taken aback. He introduces himself warmly as Vim Abel, expressing his pleasure in meeting her. She continues to look at him, her expression a mixture of uncertainty and apprehension. He adds with a gentle smile that they are companions now. The girl lowers her gaze, her mind racing. She knows nothing about this person who has shown her such kindness. Despite her ignorance, she senses a profound truth in his words. She can feel that they come from his heart. He isn't lying. A wave of hope washes over her. She wants to believe in this sincerity, to believe that this kindness is real. Her hand moves to meet his with newfound resolve. She looks up at him, her face bright with a genuine smile for the first time. She introduces herself as Hannah Sharon and declares that she will be in his care. As they shake hands, she reflects on the feeling. Whether it was simply a result of her dire circumstances or something more, she finds the warmth of his hand deeply pleasant. The beastkin merchant, smiling, gestures towards a large, intricate magic circle inscribed on the floor. He announces that it is time to begin the contract ceremony and asks them to step into the circle. As they stand within the circle's bounds, a complex, snowflake-like pattern becomes visible on the nape of Hana's neck. Vim observes it silently. The merchant then presents a small, sharp blade on a tray, instructing him to place a few drops of blood onto the pattern. Vim acknowledges the instruction and takes the blade. He moves behind Hana, who kneels on the floor and gently reaches for the back of her neck. As drops of blood touch the mark, it flares with a brilliant white light, the pattern glowing intensely. The light subsides, and the merchant announces the successful completion of the ceremony. Vim smiles warmly at Hana, praising her for her good work and telling the merchant to let him know if anything else is required. She looks up, her face alight with a brilliant, joyful smile, and gives a happy yes. Seeing her relief, Vim suggests that it is now time for them to head home. A grand, well-appointed mansion stands under a partly cloudy sky, its many windows suggesting a residence of considerable wealth and importance. At the entrance, Vim Abel arrives with Hannah Sharon at his side. He announces his return and is immediately greeted by his staff, who welcome him home. He turns his attention to his butler, James, thanking him for the introduction to the slave merchant. James, in turn, inquires if the nervous-looking girl is Vim's new companion. Hannah, meanwhile, offers a quiet word of thanks. Vim formally introduces the girl as Hannah Sharon. He then instructs James to prepare a room for her, a request the butler accepts without hesitation while the headmaid, Arya, bows respectfully. Arya then steps forward, addressing Hannah directly and offering to show her around the residence. Vim watches the exchange with a gentle expression as Hannah looks toward the maid. He places a reassuring hand on Hannah's shoulder, encouraging her to go ahead, letting her know that it's all right. She hesitates for only a moment before quietly agreeing, her expression softening as she accepts the kindness being shown to her. Sometime later, Vim sits alone in a lounge, engrossed in a book. His reading is interrupted by a tentative voice calling his name. He looks up to see Hannah, who asks what he thinks of her new room. Her eyes shine with unshed tears of joy as she exclaims that the room is wonderful and that she couldn't possibly be happier. He gestures for her to have a seat across from him, stating that from now on, this is her place. Hannah eagerly agrees. He begins by stating his desire for her to help with his work, clarifying that the main task will be fighting monsters. To that end, he asks what weapon she is skilled with. She responds with a confident yes, asserting that she is proficient with a one-handed sword. Pleased with her answer, he decides to entrust the vanguard position to her. With her specialty confirmed, he enthusiastically suggests they go shopping for a weapon immediately. He then adds that they will also need to buy her some new clothes. He explains his reasoning. Since they will be working together from now on, it is only proper that they should be on equal footing. Overwhelmed, she quietly asks if it is truly all right for him to do so much for her. With a hand on her chest, she expresses her immense gratitude. At that moment, James and Arya appear, with the butler eagerly offering to show them a place to go shopping. From the mansion's balcony, her voice rings out, eagerly accepting the offer. Sometime later, inside a shop, Hannah examined a large two-handed sword with a look of confusion, while Vim observes her. After selecting her weapon, Vim presents her with a new adventuring outfit. She tries on the tunic, shorts, and long coat, her tail wagging with delight as she strikes a happy pose. As they walk back through the town, he carries all of their new purchases. She apologizes for the burden, but he simply tells her not to worry about it. He glances at her, adding that carrying things like this is simply what a man should do. Hannah looks up at him, her expression touched by his simple act of chivalry. He listens as Hannah, a blush dusting her cheeks, admits that this is the first time she has ever been treated with such kindness. She elaborates, her eyes closed in contentment, that it feels wonderful to be valued. Without him, she muses, her life would have been a bleak existence, ending with her death from the poison. Her heartfelt words catch him off guard, and he can only utter her name in response. With a decisive turn, she continues her thought. She faces him with a radiant smile, expressing her profound gratitude for having been taken in by him. A faint blush appears on his cheeks as he looks away, thinking to himself that he is the one who should be thankful. He feels fortunate to have met her. Later that evening, he sits alone at a table on the mansion's balcony, the building quiet around him. He gazes up at the star-filled sky, his thoughts turning to Anna. He quietly wonders if he can truly become a magician of justice. His contemplation is interrupted by James, who approaches from behind and asks for a moment. Vim turns in his chair, acknowledging the butler. The butler presents him with a letter, explaining that it has arrived from His Majesty the King. Vim accepts the correspondence, which bears an official wax seal. He unsealed the letter and read its contents. The king's script was direct. He was in need of Vim's advice on an urgent matter and was to report to the royal palace the following day. His expression grew serious as he processed the summons, a matter that required his personal advice. He couldn't begin to imagine what the king could possibly want from him. Within the Cyrus Empire, an official delivers a startling report to his emperor. Vim Abel has traveled to the Leoria kingdom and successfully registered as an S-rank adventurer. The news strikes the emperor with force. He presses a hand to his forehead, finding it unbelievable that Vim has accomplished this so soon after escaping the dungeon. His eyes widen with concern. The official, identified as a duke, observes his ruler's distress and asks what he intends to do. The emperor's thoughts turn grim. He recalls imprisoning Vim precisely because he was a threat, And now, the worst-case scenario looms. The possibility of war with Leoria. He remains silent, lost in contemplation. The official advises that they refrain from reporting back until new information is available, a suggestion the Emperor accepts with a quiet affirmation. Still, the question of what to do next hangs heavily in the air. Meanwhile, in Leoria, Vim Abel explains his strategy to King Elderet. He reveals that he engineered his own escape by ensuring the dungeon was left unattended and the barrier unmaintained. The fact that it all went so smoothly, he muses, exposed a crack in the Empire's defenses and gave him some peace of mind. Back in the Cyrus throne room, the officials' thoughts are consumed by their former prisoner. As he watches his emperor, he can only wonder what Vim Abel will do next. That evening in the Leorian royal palace, King Elderet formally receives his guests. He apologizes for summoning Vim and Hannah Sharon so suddenly and gestures for them to sit. The king then turns his attention to Hannah. He introduces himself as Elderet Leoria, stating that he has heard of her and is pleased to finally meet her. Overwhelmed, Hannah can only manage a stammered, reciprocal greeting. He offers a warm smile, telling her there is no need to be so stiff. He explains that he was told she is a gifted person and, because of that, he was looking forward to their meeting. Hannah is taken aback by his kindness, offering her sincere thanks. He acts without consideration for status, a trait Vim Abel finds fitting for the ruler of a meritocratic country. Vim realizes his majesty must surely know of Hannah's origins. The king leans forward, deciding not to prolong the matter. He states that the reason he summoned them is because he has a request for Vim. He explains that the Third Night Order is currently in the East Forest suppressing monsters, but they are having an unusually difficult time. He wishes to send Vim there as support. Vim is taken aback, wondering how the Elite Knight Order could possibly be struggling. The king confirms this with a grim expression, adding that the surrounding areas have also suffered damage. As he considers the gravity of the situation, Hannah turns to him, her expression serious, and asks if he will go. Her question solidifies his resolve. He formally announces his name, Vim Abel, and declares that he will accept the request. Pleased with the swift acceptance, the king thanks him and slides a card across the table, handing it over. Vim takes the card, looking from it to the king as he asks what it is. Hannah peers at it with curiosity. The king explains with a confident smile that the card serves as testimony of the royal family's backing. It will allow Vim to bypass any inspections or troublesome procedures in the country, giving him the freedom to act as needed. In addition to that, he mentions another idea. He is thinking of a way to have Hannah register as an adventurer. The suggestion catches both of them completely by surprise. He acknowledges Hannah's point, that government regulations indeed prohibit slaves from registering as adventurers. However, with a firm expression, he declares his personal opposition to such rules. He elaborates on the political climate, explaining that while there is a growing movement to abolish the system and judge individuals on their merits, a strong conservative faction remains resistant to change. To that end, he reveals his plan. He will treat Hannah's registration as a special case, using it as an opportunity to sway public opinion towards abolition. For this to succeed, he stresses people need to recognize what true power is. Hannah listens, stunned by the weight of his words. With a confident smile, he formally asks them to complete their mission without fail. Startled but resolute, both Vim and Hannah accept the charge with a unified shout. Sometime later, their carriage rumbles along a road winding through a dense forest. Inside, Hannah reflects on the recent events with a warm smile. She remarks on the king's kindness, grateful that he made it possible for someone like her to have a chance at becoming an adventurer. Vim agrees enthusiastically, adding with a thoughtful expression that perhaps, one day, the king might even succeed in abolishing slavery entirely. His thoughts, however, take a darker turn. He internally rejects the idea that using anyone for profit, even criminal slaves like Hannah, is necessary. The memory of Anna surfaces, and he believes with grim certainty that she would still be alive if the system of slavery had not existed. Gazing out the carriage window, he concludes his thought. If the system were gone, sorrow would diminish, and the world would improve. He sits inside a moving carriage with Hannah, listening as their driver explains the journey ahead. It will take half a day to reach Barren, the town nearest the East Forest, so the driver advises them to rest. Vim acknowledges the information with a word of thanks. As they travel, a sense of unease prompts him to perform a precautionary scan for enemies. The results are immediate and alarming. His senses lock onto a person in grave danger, under attack by a dragon. From inside the carriage, Vim Abel witnesses the chaos unfolding outside. With determination etched on his face, he declares to his surprised Hannah and driver, "I'm going to help," and rushes out the door. Outside, a lone woman with a large ribbon in her hair stands her ground, sword drawn, against a menacing pack of dark, winged dragons that circle her. She grits her teeth in frustration as one of the beasts swoops past her. With a fierce cry, she pivots to fend off another that lunges at her from the side, its sharp teeth bared. One of the dragons unleashes a powerful tail swipe, a blur of dark scales cutting through the air. The blow sends her flying. She screams as she is thrown to the ground, her sword knocked from her grasp. Lying defeated, she grimaces at the thought of failure after coming so far. Above her, one of the dragons looms, its maw open and ready to strike. Just as the beast descends, Vim Abel sprints between them, shouting the name of his spell, Severance Barrier. A shield of hexagonal light erupts, deflecting the attack. He glances back at the woman, relieved that he made it just in time. Still on the ground and covered in dust, she looks up at her unexpected savior with confusion, asking who he is. Ignoring her question, he turns and urgently calls out for his companion, shouting, "Hana, Kume!" Responding instantly to his call, Hana leaps into the fray. She lands with feline grace before launching a powerful kick that slams into a dragon's side, sending the beast reeling. As Hana engaged the dragons, Vim Abel shouted her name, invoking the spirit of fire to unleash a volley of searing fire bullets. The projectiles streaked through the air, finding their marks and engulfing the beasts in flame. His spell created a crucial opening, and Hana surged forward, a blur of motion as she cut down the remaining scorched dragons with decisive, powerful strikes. With the immediate threat neutralized, the woman they had rescued watched them, her expression one of awe. She noted their excellent coordination, the magician limiting the enemy's vision while the knight moved in for the kill. Vim then approached the knight, extending a hand as a soft, magical light enveloped her. He cast a healing spell, mending her wounds. The woman marveled at the sensation, recognizing it as restoration magic and remarking on its effectiveness. Vim humbly replied that it was the least he could do. Now healed and feeling indebted, she formally introduced herself. She was Misa Flamen, a knight from the Imperial Guards of Cyrus, and she expressed her deep gratitude for being saved from such a predicament, wishing to repay them. Vim listened, surprised to learn he had just saved a knight from the Empire. He considered her offer, his mind racing. He thought it unwise to get too involved with the Empire, but acknowledged that a day might come when intervention is necessary. Besides, he understood that a knight's profession is one of great pride, and a debt must be honored. Having reached a decision, he faced Misa and introduced himself as Vim Abel. He appreciated her offer, he explained, but for now, her being indebted to him would be sufficient. He continued with a reassuring smile, clarifying his proposal. While he was fine at the moment, he would like to borrow her strength if he ever found himself in a difficult situation in the future. Misa looked at him, softly murmuring his name as she processed the request. Then, with resolve, she accepted his proposal. She looks at him with earnest conviction, making a solemn vow. Whenever he finds himself in trouble, she promises to swing her sword for him. He accepts her pledge, calling out her name as he turns and departs. His silhouette quickly vanishes among the trees. Standing alone, she quietly repeats his name, Vim Abel. She feels certain she's heard the Duke mention that name before. Her train of thought is broken by the sudden realization that he has already left. Her gaze follows to where he disappeared, only to see him in the distance, effortlessly conjuring a swirling sphere of energy. A faint blush appears on her cheeks as she grasps the truth. She owes a favor to a truly incredible person. In the town of Bullen, the closest settlement to the East Forest, stands a local guild branch, a stately two-story building where adventurers gather. Inside, Vim Abel, accompanied by Hana, approaches the front desk. He announces that he has come by order of His Majesty the King and needs to see the guild branch master. The receptionist recognizes their names from a notice, confirming they were expected, and offers to lead them there after glancing at Vim's adventure card. She guides them to an office where a woman with glasses greets them warmly. Thanking them for coming, she introduces herself as Camilla, the master of Bullen's guild branch, and invites them to have a seat. Once they are settled, Camilla finishes explaining the current, troubling situation within the East Forest. Vim considers her words, summarizing his understanding of the problem. The Night Order is being pushed back, yet the high-ranking monsters continue to appear without end. Camilla affirms that his assessment is correct. She elaborates that, in addition to the powerful monsters, the forest is filled with many novice adventurers, making the situation uncontrollable. Vim acknowledges that even simple tasks would be challenging for a beginner under these conditions. Understanding the gravity of the situation, he agrees to do his best to help. Soon after, they arrive at their destination, the dense and foreboding East Forest. Within the woods, Vim instructs Hana to stay alert. He senses an unusual concentration of mana in the air, noting internally that it feels 5 times stronger than normal. As he wonders about its source, Hana lets out a sudden cry of alarm. The source of her alarm is a terrible sight. A massive, reptilian beast is bearing down on a party of adventurers who are hopelessly outmatched. He immediately rushes forward, calling out to the embattled adventurers to see if they are all right. As one of them looks back in shock, Vim's gaze fixes on the creature, wondering if this monster is the source of the dense mana he detected. He stands before the massive reptilian beast, undeterred by the shouts of the beleaguered adventurers urging him to flee the danger. With a roar, the monster lunges. Instead of retreating, Vim turns to his companion, declaring that he's leaving it to Hana. She immediately springs forward, blade ready, accepting the task without hesitation. The beast's attack sends her flying back, but Vim is there to catch her in his arms. He quickly asks if she's all right, and she stammers out a thank you, still dazed. Holding her close, he raises a hand as a complex, magical sigil materializes above it. He begins an incantation, calling upon the great spirit of fire for its power. A moment later, a colossal explosion erupts, engulfing the monster's head and torso in a torrent of destructive energy. Even Hannah looks on in shock at the sheer force of the blast. As the smoke clears, Vim looks at Hannah, a determined glint in his eye. He states that the monster has given them an opening, and they will show no mercy. Nearby, one of the surviving adventurers stares in disbelief, asking what just happened. Vim calmly announces that the fight is over and turns his attention to the wounded, stating he must treat them. He then raises his hand once more, this time invoking the spirit of light. A wave of gentle energy radiates outwards from him, washing over the injured adventurers as he casts a wide-area healing spell. One of the knights, a man with reddish hair, looks down at his hands in astonishment, exclaiming that all his injuries have been healed. He asks Vim who they are, and Vim introduces himself. The knight realizes they must be the reinforcements sent by the king. Noting the dense mana he felt from the monster just moments ago. He then formally introduces himself as the vice leader of the Third Knight Order and expresses his profound gratitude for being saved. His tone becomes more serious as he looks towards the forest, adding that he has a favor to ask, if it isn't too much trouble. Within a grand hall, members of the Balling Guild and the Third Knight Order gather for a celebratory banquet. A toast is raised to congratulate them on the successful monster subjugation in the East Forest. Amidst the festivities, an older nobleman approaches Vim Abel, introducing himself as Count Dionboen. The Count commends Vim for his truly commendable performance, and after a moment of surprise, Vim humbly accepts the honor. The Count then encourages him to enjoy the banquet, an invitation Vim eagerly accepts. He later speaks with an official, who remarks that completing the request so quickly was quite astonishing. Vim deflects the praise, stating that it wasn't just his group, but the efforts of everyone involved that led to their success. Other adventurers at the banquet share this sentiment of collective achievement. They remark that because hardworking people are rewarded and treated fairly, the kingdom is headed in the right direction, attracting outstanding talents. This is why the people of Leoria are so lively. It is a wonderful country, unlike the Cyrus Empire, which is known to dispose of any powerful individuals. Later that night, as they depart in a carriage, Hannah Sharon remarks on how fun the banquet was. Vim agrees, adding that the food was particularly good. His pleasant mood fades as he gazes out the window into the darkened woods. A feeling of unease settles over him as he notes the unnatural quiet, hoping their journey home remains uneventful. The feeling intensifies into a chilling certainty. He senses that the area around them is completely devoid of life, a phenomenon he recognizes as a clearing barrier. Just as he processes this, a loud crack echoes from outside. The carriage lurches violently, startling both him and Hannah. The vehicle grinds to a halt. The driver looks back, perplexed, while Vim and Hannah peer out into the oppressive darkness, questioning what just happened. He finds a road blocked by a group of adventurers. Their leader, a man with glasses, observes that there should be a clearing barrier in place, a fact that seems to surprise Vim. The man smirks, commenting on Vim's knowledge before revealing a crucial detail. Mental magic can be nullified with skills. Unfazed, Vim simply tells them to get out of the way. He apologizes, stating that their request is impossible. With a sinister smile, he explains that they cannot allow anyone who has seen them to leave. The man orders his companions to attack. Without a moment's hesitation, Vim begins an incantation, calling upon the spirit of light to unleash a thunderbolt. Much to Hannah's surprise at the lack of discussion, the spell erupts with a power that stuns the enemy leader, who marvels at such force from a short chant. Vim shouts for Hannah to handle two of the attackers, and she immediately engages them, expertly parrying their blades with her daggers. She swiftly strikes down one of her opponents. Seeing this, the leader's expression hardens. Believing Vim's weakness is close combat, he dismisses him as just a magician. As another adventurer lunges, Vim calmly meets the attack. A blade flashes, and the man cries out in pain, brought down by Vim's unexpected counter. He follows up by throwing his dagger, which clatters against the leader's arm guard, before closing the distance and landing a solid punch. Vim declares that it's a grave mistake to assume a magician can't handle hand-to-hand combat. The leader curses, caught completely off guard. The man quickly throws a small sphere to the ground, which erupts into a thick cloud. Vim instantly recognizes it as a smoke bomb. The smoke clears to reveal the leader has vanished. Vim confirms that even his detection magic can't locate him. When Hannah asks if they should pursue, he says no, instead preparing a new spell, a wind blast, aimed at the surrounding forest. He reasoned that the town guards would likely apprehend the man who had fled. The forest fell silent once more. Moments later, safely within a moving carriage, he found himself pondering the encounter. He questioned what those people were even doing in such a remote place. His thoughts turned to the group itself. He resolved to investigate the matter further upon his return. Upon arriving at their destination, he and Hannah were greeted at the entrance by James, who welcomed them back. Vim immediately asked if anything had occurred during their absence, prompting a sudden recollection from Hannah. Before she could speak, James answered, recalling a specific incident. He informed Vim that a man and a woman with red hair had come to visit. A hooded girl, standing beside the butler, added that the visitors did not seem to be from this country, and asked if Vim knew them. As Vim inquired about what happened, King Eldoret, observing from nearby, silently wondered if they were agents from Cyrus. A sudden, grim realization seemed to dawn on Vim as he processed the description of the red-haired pair. Deep within the Cyrus Empire's underground prison, a high-ranking official approaches a cell. He rouses the two occupants, a young man and woman, informing them it is time to get up. They have work to do. The young man, Kajiro, sits up with a menacing grin, his teeth appearing unnaturally sharp. He casually asks who their target is this time. Beside him, the young woman, Maria, remains silent. They're Cyrus's designated hitman. He presents them with a photograph of their mark. Vim Abel, a former imperial court magician, now residing in the neighboring country of Leoria. Kajiro remarks that it has been a while since they were able to go out, suggesting it will be fine to take this man out. Maria, however, clenches her hands nervously but quietly agrees to undertake the task. Far away, unaware of the plot against him, Vim Abel relaxes in the grand bathroom of his new residence. He lets out a long, contented sigh, remarking to himself on the room's unnecessary spaciousness. He reflects on the intensity of his recent experiences. His first mission in Leoria, saving a knight of Cyrus, his first time cooperating with Hannah, and then meeting a mysterious group of people on the way home. His thoughts connect this encounter with the suspicious people that James had mentioned earlier, a sense of unease beginning to form. He then recalls old rumors from his time as a court magician, whispers that the imperial prince, who is now the emperor, utilized hired assassins. The memory becomes clearer, recalling the specific rumor that those very assassins were responsible for the death of the now former emperor. A chilling realization dawns on him. Perhaps he is now a target for assassination. He questions the logic, wondering why they would come to their target's own home. At that moment, the sound of a door sliding open shatters the quiet. He turns, thinking it might be James, but is shocked to find Hannah Sharon standing in the doorway, wrapped only in a towel. She addresses him sweetly and asks, to his utter astonishment, if she may join him. She offers to wash his back, explaining that it is part of her duty as a slave. He reacts with flustered panic, throwing his hands up and insisting that she doesn't need to do things like that, reminding her that he considers them equals. She seems confused by his rejection. While acknowledging his point, she murmurs that she isn't one of them, and then hesitantly asks if men don't typically enjoy this sort of attention. She continues her line of reasoning, suggesting that since they are on equal footing and already nearly naked, there should be no issue. His embarrassment peaks as he realizes she's suggesting they enter the bath together. He shouts for her to stop. His voice echoes from within the mansion as he tells her she can go in after he's finished. A short while later, he emerges from the bathroom, now dressed, and sighs that it was a nice bath. He throws himself onto his bed, relaxing with his hands behind his head. As he rests, he resolves that he must tell Hannah to stop her recent behavior, but a sharp knock on the door interrupts his thoughts. He calls for the person to enter. The door opens to reveal Arya, who announces herself and asks to come in. Vim asks her what's up. He is met with a kind offer from Arya. Noting that he looked tired when he returned, she gently suggests giving him a massage. He readily accepts the proposal. Pleased, Arya instructs him to lie face down on the bed. As her hands begin to work on his back, he lets out a sigh of pure relief, murmuring how good it feels. Arya asks if the pressure is to his liking. Relaxed, he turns his head slightly to bring up a matter that occurred during her absence. However, Arya senses his tension, gently telling him that they are all truly grateful for his hard work, though he seems to be thinking of other things. Inside his stately office, King Eldoret Leoria reviews an extermination report, commending Vim Abel for his work hunting monsters in the eastern forest and reminding him to claim his reward from the guild. The king's focus then shifts, inquiring about the suspicious people Vim encountered on his way back. An official with glasses asks for a description, and Vim, after a moment of thought, suggests they might have been part of a human trafficking organization, noting they had even erected a barrier to keep others away. He elaborates that kidnappings and abductions have recently become a serious problem in Leoria, one that the state has been unable to resolve. Vim processes this information, concluding that if the government is struggling, the organization must be massive. He then reveals to the king that, in the past, he himself investigated a human trafficking organization. His memory flashes back 3 years to his time as a court magician. He had finally cornered his targets, preparing a spell and vowing revenge for someone named Anna. However, the slavers, a woman with a heart-shaped mark under her eye and a man in a beanie, revealed a bundle of lit explosives. The trap was sprung, and a massive explosion engulfed the area as Vim watched in disbelief. The vision of the aftermath shows the slavers even killed their own comrades to ensure their escape. Returning to the present, Vim explains to the king that he was close to catching that large organization, but they slipped away. He clarifies that while human trafficking is an unforgivable crime, this new group is not the same one he was pursuing. He then formally requests permission to investigate this matter as well. Seeing Vim's expertise and resolve, King Eldoret agrees, deciding to leave the matter in his hands. He instructs Vim to report any findings, and Vim acknowledges the command. As their discussion concludes, the door clatters open, and Princess Ellen Leoria enters. She greets Vim cheerfully, exclaiming that it's been a long time. Vim, taken aback, addresses her formally as Princess, but she quickly insists he call her Eren-chan. He is visibly flustered by the familiar, informal address. Her use of Chan prompts reactions from the others. Hannah notes that it's an order from the princess, while Arya mutters that it isn't fair. Ellen seems to momentarily lose her confidence. The topic shifts as Vim and Hannah describe a delicious meatball pasta dish they recently enjoyed, which Ellen listens to with great interest. She muses that while she could ask someone to make it for her, she would love to eat it at the actual place someday. Turning to Vim, she asks him directly, calling him Vim-sama. He agrees to her unspoken request. Ellen's face lights up with a bright, joyful smile. She tells him how much she enjoyed hearing his story and asks him to tell her more again in the future. After the door closes behind her, King Eldoret's expression turns grave. He thinks to himself that he is sorry, but he cannot let his daughter, Erin, go out freely. On the other side of the door, Ellen seems to understand her father's reasoning, acknowledging that the outside world is still full of dangers. She looks toward the future with a hopeful smile, telling her father that she will wait for the day Vim and the others bring peace to the world. King Eldoret looks at his daughter, a gentle expression on his face, and agrees that he, too, looks forward to that day. Meanwhile, in a castle corridor, Vim and Hannah are approached by a young man in a formal uniform. He greets them both, introducing himself as Vice Captain Mark, and offers Vim a handshake. He then turns to Hannah, his expression brightening as he tells her she looks lovely. Flustered by the sudden compliment, Hannah stammers her thanks while Vim watches. Mark clears his throat, offering a quick apology for his forwardness. His attention returns to Vim as he asks if he's just returned. Vim confirms that he has. Following this, Mark asks if Vim could spare a moment. Vim readily agrees, inquiring about the matter at hand. Mark leads them into an office, announcing that he has brought Vim and his partner. Inside, a blonde man thanks Vim for coming. The blonde man gets straight to the point, introducing himself as Camille, the captain of the Third Night Order. He explains that because of Vim's impressive work in the Eastern Forest, they would like to request his help in hunting a swarm of slimes. He continues, elaborating that the next mission site is experiencing a massive slime outbreak, a situation that is a poor match for the Night Squads, who rely primarily on sword-based combat. Camille adds that the head mage has also requested backup from the court magicians, but they are currently unavailable. Vim listens intently, his hand to his chin as he considers the problem. The captain's explanation highlights the core issue. Magic is difficult. It requires immense effort to master mana control and develop spells, which is why there are so few magic users. As a result, monster hunting falls to the knights. But against a foe like a slime swarm, their conventional strength is a source of unease, especially without the head mage's support. He agrees to help, much to Camille's relief. The captain thanks him profusely, promising to contact him as soon as the mission schedule is finalized. Having accepted the task, Vim returns to his residence. James and Hannah welcome him home, and he informs them that he's been tasked to accompany the knights and will be away again. Before the conversation ends, he turns to James with a serious expression, stating there is something he'd like to ask. He asks the butler if he knows anything about the human trafficking organization, a matter so significant that even the state is investigating. James admits he doesn't know much, but explains that from his time serving in the royal palace, he still has a decent network of information. Vim earnestly requests that he investigate the matter for him. Meanwhile, in the Bullen territory of the Leoria Kingdom, a sharp, wet sound cuts through the night as blood splatters against the wall of a stately building. In a dark alley, the assassin Kajiro grins, holding the wallet of his victim. He whistles a tune, remarking that the man was carrying a lot of money. His partner, Maria, watches silently from the background. She questions his actions, reminding him that their target was supposed to be a man named Vim. Kajiro casually dismisses her concern, stating that taking out this man was just for his own amusement. When Maria points out that finding the body might put Vim on guard, he simply calls her cold. He smirks, confident that he wouldn't make such a rookie mistake. He reminds her that they are merely slaves. If they get caught, they simply return to their cells. With a probing look, he then asks Maria if there isn't anything she wants to do. The question makes her pause. A memory surfaces of a kind voice asking a young Maria what she wanted to be when she grew up, as she stood holding hands with her parents. In that memory, her younger self had smiled brightly, declaring that she wanted to be a florist because she loved flowers. Returning to the present, Maria closes her eyes. She admits that of course she has things she wants, but tells Kajiro that it's a totally different story now. He responds with a knowing smirk. Her thoughts are interrupted by Kajiro's voice, which delivers a startling revelation. He explains that the Beast King girl they are observing, Hannah, apparently came from the same organization as their own cruel mistress. The image of the female slaver, a dark silhouette with a heart-shaped mark, flashes in Maria's mind as her expression freezes in shock. He continues, asking how she could possibly know that Hannah now eats fancy meals and sleeps in a soft bed. He answers his own question, stating the information came from her master. Kajiro bitterly reflects on their own grim reality, forced to commit crimes just to survive, a stark contrast to Hannah's apparent happiness. He looks at the smiling girl and cries out in frustration, questioning the gods why life is so unfair when she is supposed to be just like them. She tries to dismiss his complaints, muttering that she doesn't care and that it's not her problem. But his words have struck a nerve. Her expression hardens into a glare as she internally concedes the truth of his statement. Her gloved hand squeezes into a fist, and she silently wonders why it is only them who must endure this life.